4. Okay. I need to start recording to the cloud, not to my computer. Clouds, I don't understand clouds. So that's why I always just save it to my computer, and my computer gets more full and full and full. Anyway, so let's talk about these colors. I did send an image of these colors to your email about 5 minutes ago. So if you would like to see an actual image, you can open up your email and it should, in theory, be there, hopefully. But I'm going to go over what every color is that I pulled out. Of course, I might not use some of these, and of course, I might pull some from my box. So, all right. So first, I have a very dark kind of mulberry color, we're going to call it. Now, for my painters, these are going to be kind of the colors that you're going to want to mix up. So, yeah, that's the perk of pastel. You just grab it, and it's there. So, a mulberry. We have a deep purple. This is my V100 by Terry Ludwig. Gotta love it. It's like an eggplant, almost a black. I have a very nice slate blue here, which is very similar to Harbor Blue, which is my 345 in the new pastel world. I mean, it's right here. The same color, essentially. Just one's softer, one's harder. I'll keep them both there, though. Here I have a very pale blue. It's like a powder blue. Here I have an olive green. This is new pastel. I don't know the number. 3, 1, something with a circle on the top. I don't know. It's olive. And here we have like a chartreuse. It's a new pastel. So something loud and spring green-esque. Here I have a slightly, I don't know what to call this. We'll call it yellow green, spring green, green tinged yellow. Okay. And down below I have yours and my favorite, 244. If you don't have 244, I'm sorry. That's all I can say now, since you can't buy it anymore. Here we have, it's okay if you don't, though. It's all right. We're gonna, it's okay.
What color is 244? I don't know numbers.
It's okay. I only know like 5 numbers. Is it gonna draw on my hand? It's like a gray purple. It's a very
like that.
That looks like it could be it. I mean, try it out. If it's too purpley, it's not right. But honestly, purple and gray will make the same thing. But I just love it. Okay, next column, we have a loud yellow. It's like more of a cadmium yellow. So cadmium yellow, medium, cadmium yellow, deep, cadmium yellow right out of the tube would be your good to go. You're working in oil. Here I have like a terracotta color, like a burnt sienna almost. Here I have I'm gonna call it khaki. So maybe like a raw sienna kind of vibe. Here we have like a cadmium red light. It's very orange red. Okay, that background is very, very orange. I don't know, this must have been taken in the fall or something, but it's just so loud that I had to do it because I'm not used to doing loud subjects. Kind of scared. So here we have a regular red. Here we have like this kind of dirty, fleshy color. So I don't know what to call that, silly putty. Here we have like a brick red, very, very dark brick red. And over here I have my little trifecta of lights. I have white, cream, and we'll call that lemon meringue. I don't know really where that will be in the picture. I just saw it and I wanted to use it. So those are my color lineups. Let's sketch this guy out though, these little trio, my little trios. So I'm gonna use a color that you can actually see. You can use any color you want. And if you are on canvas, you can use a pencil or a paintbrush, whatever floats your boat. Doesn't matter because whatever you're working in, it's all gonna be the same. I'm gonna sketch in, I'm gonna do like a pink. I'm pretty sure it'll stand out enough. So we have our 3 little musketeers. We've got our little round guy here. Put his little curvy shape in. And then the underside of him, very scoopy as well. We're seeing the underside, which means we're gonna see an ellipse on the bottom. We're seeing that opening. Underneath is the cap of the mushroom. So I want you to think about, you're seeing, how can I use this? Like a pear, or not a pear, a peach that's cut in half. or anything round that's kind of cut in half. It's the same kind of idea. So rounded, scoopy, rounded top, less scoopy middle line, and then a reverse scoop. So like a smile. So it's going to be a rainbow, then a smile. I'm sure there's better terms for that, like convex and concave, but I can never remember which line is the convex and which one's the concave. So we're just going to go with rainbows and scoops. All right, next one. Now in this bottom shape here, in this ellipse, this is where the stem comes out of. So I see the stem is pretty high up here. So I'm just going to draw like a little curve right here. You can make it wide, you can make it not wide. It's up to you, it's your world. And you're just going to come on down, and you're going to come on down, and it's going to be covered with grasses. So you don't even have to draw the bottom. Look at that. Mushroom 1 done. Rainbow, rainbow, scoop, 2 lines. Next one. We don't see the underside of this guy too much. He doesn't have too much of the bottom side. He's a little bit more of a profile view. He's looked like he's seen better days, but I like him. I like this little blue line that's on the bottom on him. So make him a little wonky, embrace his wonkiness. Okay, we see a little bit of the underside. I'm just going to draw a little thickness here because that's all it really is. And we're going to scoop on down to make his stem. Is that your dog, Kristen?
Oh, I'm broadcasting. Sorry, that's my dog with a squeaky toy.
Oh, I was like, that's either a whimper or like, I don't know. I thought someone was playing with a balloon and letting out the air like by squeezing it. And like, oh, that's so funny. The things you hear on Zoom, you know? Okay, mushroom 2. There we go. Now the third one, he's kind of like, I don't know. I picture this guy as like, he's the dad, this is the mom, and this is the baby. I don't know why. But he's going to be a little bit lower here. He's kind of even. Remember, it's your world. You do you. No one's going to know. I won't tell. A little up, a little down, a little up. A nice little S curve here. Nice little S curve. And I'm going to follow that S curve, and it's going to wrap around. It's going to make a nice little shape there. And if you need to, carry that all the way around. We'll just cover it up with the stem, but it's good to just have that continuous line. Kind of looks like a coffee bean, something like that. Now the inside here, we have a really nice clear area where we see how that stem sockets into this this like underside. So I'm going to draw like a little line here. It's going to come around. It's almost like a hole. We're drawing like almost a hole because that stem's going to come on down. He's very straight. There we go. He's very wide and very straight. Okay. And that's, I think, all we're going to worry about for the shapes of the mushrooms. Now, all those grasses down below, don't feel like we're going to be drawing every little tiny growth on those leaves. No, that's just not going to happen with me, at least. You do you, but I'll be over here suggesting grass. And that all starts with a very organic, wiggly, jagged line to start with. You'll do this with either strokes with your pastel, which I'll show you, or with your brush stroke if you're in paint with different values. Either way, it will all be kind of executed similarly. Now, the last time I did a mushroom one, I know Kristen and Rachel, you guys were in that class where I did the mushroom and pastel. Oh my gosh, I love that pastel so much. I almost wanted to just keep it. So I was like, today's going to be another mushroom day. So here I am. I did a mushroom. I started another mushroom earlier today for a different class. I'm going to do another one tomorrow night. I'll be doing that one in a different medium though. Okay, so that's going to be our sketch for our mushrooms. Now the background has all these different blob-like things. Now because it's a camera, I know Bruce knows a lot about cameras. So it's this, they're all circle-y shapes, you know, you don't have to do that. You want to draw them in and do that, you do you. I'm not gonna really, that's like my theme today. It's the third time I've said that. How many more times am I gonna say it? Let's count. You can draw your circles, that's fine, but I'm gonna try to keep it a little bit more organic, just because it's artwork. It doesn't have to be these circle-y shapes, even though I'm literally drawing circles. I won't be filling it in that way. So I'm just drawing in areas that I know are going to be light, and I could even label them, you know, L for light. L, L, L. They're like little bubbles almost. Down here, there's a big old L, light. It's almost like you're putting in your own little coloring book. Where's going to be what? And the only other thing, if you wanted to draw it in, is the difference between the light and shadow on the cat. Okay, so over here we have light and we have shadow. So I can draw a line here if you wanted to. Over here, it's very subtle, but there's a little bit of, you know, more light over here and dark over here. This guy is going to be a little bit more dark than there is light. So you can draw them in if you choose to. You do not have to, because we're going to literally plop it in with everything. But I'm just going to pause there for the moment. Okay. So let's start off like we usually do by putting in our darks. So I'm going to start off with my super dark purple. Now for my oil painters, you could do your brown and blue mixture. If you want to mix up a deep purple, that would be cool. You could do brown and purple. So you could do burnt sienna or an umber mixed with a purple, or if you have purple in a tube, you could use that. But the purple I would mix up would be ultramarine and alizarin. You could also do viridian and alizarin. That's a really nice combination. It's like that minty green with that deep purple, or that deep red. It makes a really nice purple tone. So love those. All right. I feel like I haven't done pastels in a while. Huh. I think it actually has been a while. I'm like, why does this feel weird? It's been a couple weeks. I've been on my I don't want to call it a vacation, but I'm not working mode. But now we're going back into work mode. So here we go. Little dark carrying around the base of my cap there. I'm going to just ease up on my pressure under there, bless you. I'm going to put a little bit of dark on the underside here and wrap it around. Now, even though here is not going to be as dark, no matter what medium you're working in, put it to be fairly dark, because we're going to layer stuff on top, and then we're able to smush it a little bit, and it will help maintain the darkness in which it's needed to stay there. All right. Dark cap here. These caps are like they're kissing. Make sure they kiss. Touching.
Okay, perfect. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
There we go. So I am just going to, I think that's why I think of this one as the mom and the baby, because she's like kissing her baby on the forehead. I don't know. These are the things I think about when I do art. I guess, I don't know if that's normal or not. Maybe most people think about like, what are they doing later in the day? Or they listen to music, or I don't know. I think about mushrooms kissing each other. All right, this is going to carry on around. You see a little bit of that cap on the underside, and we're starting to see that nice three-dimensional quality. Three-dimensionality, is that a word? I don't know. Yeah. This is in my book. All right, now the caps, they're not too shadowed. This guy's a little bit more shadowed, so I'm just going to drag down a little bit of something there. For my painters, you could use a flat brush and just do the same stroke, but with a flat brush. Now I could keep carrying this color everywhere, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of a different color now. I'm going to work a little bit more on those caps. So I put a little bit just in this little hole here on either side, just to kind of show that, you know, this stem is inserting into the cap. Okay. Well, we're going to move forward now. Now, my favorite part of this whole piece is look at this lovely blue up here. It's so periwinkle and lovely. So we have to capture that. So I'm gonna make sure I get that in right off the bat. I'm gonna grab my light blue. And I'm gonna say, all right, we're gonna just make sure that you stay nice and light. Now this is overboard light. But remember, when I work with pastels, I have to make things a little extra loud right off the bat because we can always calm it down. Now, even with oil, you can put it in loud because when you start to smush and mush things, they're going to dwindle. They're going to start to get a little bit more drab value-wise and saturation-wise. Now, this particular piece I mentioned in the email, since it's so colorful, a lot of the times what people do is when they make a very colorful piece, they rely on the color too much. And that's fine because we want color. Well, it's not fine. We want the color, but we want to still always maintain the value because without the value, it's just going to still look flat. So right here, that light blue, that's going to showcase more because it's dark behind it. But even things like this loud orange, like, is it light? Is it dark? I don't know. I mean, it depends on what's next to it. So those are all sorts of things that we're going to be thinking about today because the craziness of this very globular background with all these different colors everywhere is going to affect these mushrooms and vice versa. So we have to think about how here it's lighter, here it's darker, but here it's darker and here it's lighter. So, you know, just little like puzzle pieces on what makes what stand out nicely next to each other. Okay, so we have light blue on this guy. Let's continue with this mushroom just because I want to stick with him. I'm going to zoom in. We're going to do Papa Bear first. There we go. Okay. Let's move a little bit into some mulberry, maybe a little bit of like a more alizarin heavy purple. Now that's not really showing up as light as I want it to. So I'm going to actually make it a little bit lighter. I'm going to grab a lighter purple, which is not in my lineup, but I'm going to grab this purple. This is like a pretty loud purple. This is actually a Rembrandt pastel. They never use Rembrandts. Today is the day. It's even though Rembrandts say that they're soft, they're lying. They lie. They're really a harder pastel if you compare it with other soft pastels. I feel like they're very similar to a new pastel. They're just rounded. But I mean, who knows? And you might feel differently. But I'm going to use a little bit of this and I'm just going to start to kind of wiggle in some of my purpliness. Okay. Now I can keep some of this light blue. I can go back in. For my oil painters, you'll want to make sure that you try to maintain your light because you can always layer it on top, but it might not layer as light on top because it's not like you can use a soft pastel. You have to just use a thicker application of paint. So we have our dark purple. We have our little mulberry try there. Then we went in with some regular purple. I got my light blue still, which I will probably go back in and add some more of, but I spy with my light some reds. A little cadmium, not cadmium. This is more of like just, I don't know, what would you call that? Regular red. Should have did my nails, sorry. Regular red, just kind of working that in. If you want to use a little bit of your finger to get some smudge in, that's fine. Oil painters, you'll use a dry brush and you'll lightly shimmy those colors together, but a little bit of red. Okay, if it gets a little overboard, go back in with your purple. But remember, smoothing things out is fantastic. However, you know, not everything's super smooth. That's something we want to be mindful of is we want to still maintain some sort of texture. Okay, maybe there's a little orange. And that orange looks really loud. I don't know. Orange scares me. I don't know about that. I have to change it. Orange is one of those colors where you will not find me doing an orange still. Well, I shouldn't say that because I did an entire still life of oranges one of these past sessions. So I never mind. But orange is one of those colors that does scare me a little bit. And I don't know why. I think it's just because it's a color that I don't know, I just never had good luck with. It just doesn't like me, but we're working on it. We're getting through. We're talking it out. We're talking it out. So a little orange, a little red, breaking that up. Now, if you want to overboard, you can go back in with some of your light blue and just kind of very lightly skid that in just to kind of get it back in there. Sometimes I just kind of tap it. Oh, my hand's in the way. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna keep him just kind of like how he is right now for there. And we're gonna do the underside, which is a whole nother color palette because it's bouncing up light from my orangey stem. Okay, it's getting very, very warm under here. So it's not grays, it's not blues, it's not any of those. So I'm gonna start off with this dirty, silly putty color, just to kind of get it as something. And this is where our values are gonna really start to matter. I could tell you right off the bat that this color is way too light, especially for over here. But I'm still gonna continue with it, but I'm aware of that. And that is the main thing. You have to just be mindful of like, what are you putting down? Is it okay? Can you fix it? Can you adjust it? Okay, so I have it now warm tone. Now it's a little muddy on this side in the picture as well. I'm just gonna get it to be a little bit darker. So I'm gonna use my terracotta color, which is still very loud. I have to calm it down. So I'm gonna leave this color out so you can see it. I'm gonna use a little bit of that terracotta, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of my 244, my grayish purpley color. Now, of course, you could just use gray and purple and layer them. That's fine. I just like to use this as my way to darken things, neutralize. They need to make this color an oil paint. I mean, I could just use it, but this color is essentially the Viridian and alizarin mixture, maybe a dash of white in it, but that's essentially this color right here, that 244 color. But this is still too light. I'm squinting my eyes. Are you squinting yours? So I'm going to just knock this down. I'm gonna throw some mulberry on top and tap my finger. It's still warm. That's good. Just needs to be darker. And I'm just gonna go in with my dark purple again to clean up this edge because I kind of got a little bit outside of the lines. Let's just see. Sometimes when we go in with all these other colors, our darks get eaten up. We have to put them back in. Who knew there'd be so many colors in this? Well, I mean, I knew. That's why I picked it. I mean, I'm sure you guys opened the email and were like, whoa, Andrea, it's day one. Come on now. So here we are. Very, very orangey. If you have a different orange that you think would work better in yours, by all means, pull it out. But this like burnt sienna kind of color, this is a good color. I like it. Doing okay things so far. There's always little subtle things going on. You don't have to try to replicate the image exactly. Like I keep saying, no one's gonna know. It's gonna look like a mushroom. As long as it looks like a mushroom, then you're fine. That's our goal. Otherwise, we'll name it something else. Whatever it looks like, that's it. It'll be mushrooms and a whatever. Like sometimes limes end up looking like avocados and vice versa. So you just title it appropriately. It's fine. Okay. And this underside I got pretty orange. Now keep in mind too, we haven't done anything else. It's not like the end all say, oh, this is the mushroom. So keep that in mind. Don't feel like you have to like have like a perfect match because your eye is gonna play games on you. Everything's gonna change. It's deceiving. So we kind of have to like block in a little bit of everything and then go from there. Insert stem. Oh boy, that is orange. That's my like burnt sienna kind of color. Now see, just by putting that in, I see that I can go a little bit yellowier up top now. I'm gonna use my khaki color. Everything is always back and forth. And that stem's really cool with all these little striations in it. There's these little ups and downs and vertical lines. I want you to try to keep those. try to keep these like lines. If you are a blender, today is going to be your day. Be hard on yourself. Look at that. That's so cool. I'm only looking at it shrunk down on screen. Up close, it's a whole different feeling. But if I look at it on screen shrunk down, I feel a little better about it. So just gently drag your pastel, or if you're using a flat brush, ooh, here's one, let me grab it. You're gonna load up your brush on one side, okay? Then you're gonna flip it over. You're gonna hold it down here, and you're just gonna very lightly graze over it, almost like a palette knife, but like not. So that's a technique for my oil painting. Okay, so we're gonna leave that mushroom the way it is for now, and I'm gonna pause at that mushroom stage. All right, now I've been wanting to put this brick color in. I just wanted to make sure I did it on camera. So this like dark brick color, is it gonna go on? This color was given to me by one of my students that she actually introduced me to Terry Ludwig pastels. I gotta get her back into art. She's so talented and she took a hiatus, so I gotta get her back into it. But she gave me this color because I was doing this this one red cow. It was like a whole heifer or something. It's like the perfect red cow color. I don't know the number of it. I don't know anything about it other than it's a Terry Ludwig and it's about to disappear. So little rust color on there would be a good thing to do. All these colors are going to translate to each of these stems. So if you want to keep your stem colors separate so you know where they are, that's going to be a good thing to do. So let's work on her cap. I'm going to call her because she's the mama. So I'm going to start off with my dirty silly putty color, just to kind of get in something, a little base. There we go. Let's get in some light. Let there be light with my light blue. My oil painters, you might want to put this light blue in first. Okay, very, very gentle touch. She's got a lot of, she like runs the family. She's got some stuff going on, you know. She's seen better days over there, but she's got a lot of texture going on. So we gotta embrace that because it makes that one particular mushroom have such more personality. I just love that. So I have my silly putty color. I have my pale blue. I'm gonna throw in some purple now. If you want this one to be nice and smooth, if it doesn't work out texture-wise, that's fine. I could say you do you, but I'm trying to not say that more than at least 5 times this class. All right, a little bit of some lavender. I just love this dark, like scar or something. Bam, just get a line in there. That's with my rust, my dark rust color, okay? The one I put in over here. So I put that in with a dark shape first. Let me come on down. You guys got to see this closer. So this is how you make something look like it's pushed in. So first you make the dark line, right? Okay. Then you have to make, well, it's even a little bit more orangey. I'm gonna add a little orange in there. Then you have to make the light around it. Now I do kind of already have some light around it, but I want to go a little bit more. I'm using a soft pastel, so it's very thick right now. I'm going to slenderize that in a little bit, but I just want to make this nice and light around it. Slenderize with a middle value. So my good hard Rembrandt. Okay, I see a little bit of light right here. I'm going to go in with some cream, maybe a little bit of my yellow, my cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow, this is a hard pastel. It's really not doing much. Now, no matter what medium you're in, yellow is a very weak color. And I probably should have started with the yellow there, but I'm just gonna grab a different yellow, a softer yellow. Yellow needs some help. It doesn't really have the strength. It needs some buddies to help it out. So you could use a softer yellow, or you could start with yellow and then work some other colors around it. Now this is overwhelmingly yellow now. And that's just because I used a soft pastel. So I'm gonna go back in and kind of go and break up that yellow with some other colors, maybe some reds, warming that up. Maybe go back to my dirty, silly putty color. Yours is gonna have a different layering than mine. You might have a heavier hand than me. You might have, you know, a more softer color than mine to kind of layer on top. So when I'm going back in with something, you might not have to. Pastel pencils are a great thing as well. Keep meaning to buy more pastel pencils. I don't even know where mine are, the ones that I do have. But there's this, I follow so many artists on Instagram that utilize these pastel pencils, and oh my gosh, the stuff they do, they make it look so simple. Oh, can't stand it. But it's like, ooh, I need all of those things she's using, and then I'll be that way, right? Gotta get them all. Prime Day is tomorrow. Everyone keep a lookout for some good art materials and send emails. Send me an email if you see something good. Honestly, since Amazon started having their own brand, which is Arteza, they haven't been having a lot of sales with some of their other products. I remember getting the Prismacolor 150 count pencil set, which is, I believe, the biggest set that they have, for a fraction one Prime Day. And I should have just bought like 10 of them. I never had it again. So once you see something, stock up. And for those of you that know that I use my pastel mat, I bought 5 of these pads because they were on sale on Amazon, and they might even still be on sale.
Yeah.
Are they still?
Yeah, they were like on sale for 2/3 of what it normally costs.
Yeah, I want to say they're still on. I think the big ones are on sale too. I have to order them. So they're coming from the UK, so it is a little bit of a longer wait, but I mean, I don't care because I stock up, and then when I get down to like one pad, then I stock up again, and you just kind of have to be on top of it. Sometimes I can be on top of it, sometimes not. Look at all this texture I'm putting in. This is like a rainbow. So there's little dinks and bruises or little bits of dirt that are sitting on top. You can put those in. There's little marks. There's little grasses, it looks like. Now, if you do put in some of these things, what I want you to be mindful of is that they have weight to them. So I put a light mark here, but I need to add a shadow underneath it. Otherwise, it's not going to look right. So I'm just going to put a little mark right underneath there. I'm going to come in so you can see. Focus is. It's a light mark with a dark line right underneath it. And that's how you're going to make it look like it's something. So same thing here. Let's do a little light mark. We'll do a little dark next to it, or you could do it vice versa. You could do the dark mark and then make the light mark on top of it. I'm using a black right now. Pastel black. It's the only way I can get these fine lines with the strength of the black. The black's a little bland. It doesn't have that oomph. It doesn't have that nice, rich purpliness that the Terry Ludwig dark has. But sometimes you just need something that's just a little bit more pinpointed. Because I don't have the best way of getting like some of these little tiny zones in. You know, I don't have these little, well, I do have pastel pencils, but they're just not as chromatic. They're not as saturated, and they're definitely not as dark. So I don't know how these people do it with all their pastel pencils. That's why I keep thinking like, oh, maybe I need those ones, but I don't think it's gonna make a difference. I don't know. A little bit of a light rim there. I love this. This would be something a little bit more towards the end for my oil painters. That little bit of light. I went a little overboard with it, but I know that I'm gonna come back in and I'm gonna break it up with some of my darks. You see a little bit of the underside of her cap. So I'm gonna do purple with a little bit of some yellow on top. It's that khaki. I shouldn't even say yellow, it's khaki. And it's still too light. So we're gonna tone it down once again with that mulberry color. So essentially I used complementary colors underneath here. I used a purple and I used a yellow. These are opposite colors on the color wheel. So when you overlap them, they form a little bit more of a neutral variation, which is wonderful for some things. Okay, I think she's probably almost there. She needs to have a couple little more sprinkles on. A couple little more doodads. There we go. Okay, now her stem is still in shadow. Now I put that nice dark already here, which is great. She looks so yellow over there. I don't know. Get rid of that. Too much. There we go. Let's get that nice, loud, crazy burnt sienna color in. Now that's a pretty soft pastel that I was using. That's why it covered up a little bit of this dark stuff. I gotta put it back in. Use that edge. Remember, if you're using a very soft pastel, it's gonna be harder to layer stuff on top. So just be mindful of that. For my painters, if you have a good amount of paint on there, it's gonna just smush and mush and make mud. So you can either wipe or you can layer on top of the palette knife. That's another option. But I want you to really think about dragging your brush or your pastel over this area just to create some of this nice texture for those little variations. Nice sky yellow. What colors do you see? You might see different colors than me. I don't see it as being that yellow, but I'm kind of liking it. So I'm gonna keep it. And then we'll add some rust. Okay, that's gonna be that mushroom for the moment. And I'm just gonna pause there.
Wait a minute.
Here we go. Okay, so this little guy, same colors we used for everything else. Let's start, I'm gonna start with the light. Isn't that light on him? Nice little blue light. This blue that I'm using is a very greenish blue. It's really not the right blue, but no one's gonna know if you don't tell on me, right? All right, so a little bit of that. And then I see my mulberry, I see my reds, I see all of those colors that I put in all of my other ones. I wanna make sure that these guys still connect, okay? They're touching. A little bit there, maybe a little orange, just because I'm scared of the orange. Maybe that's why I picked this one.
What was the first color, Andrea?
I used my light blue, then I used my mulberry, then I
Okay.
used some red, and I'm gonna throw in some purple now. I also used some orange. So all of the colors that we used elsewhere. It looks like this little guy has, I think that's why I said a peach earlier, because it has like that little peach crack down the middle. And I can get that little light vibe. Kind of just putting a little bit of light there. Now this is such a soft light. It's a little overboard. You gotta calm down. But I feel like sometimes once you like kind of go overboard with something, if you take a harder pastel, you can really manipulate where that goes. Like it's kind of like, this is a really weird analogy, but it's kind of like when you're sweeping, you can sweep the dust like here and there. It's the same idea. You put down the overload of dust with a soft pastel, and then you can kind of push it around and have it go where you want. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Okay. A little bit of something there. Nothing too much, just a little. Okay. So let's see. I have to round this guy out. Then I got to do a stem and the underside. The underside, I'm finding that that color combination of the khaki and the 244 can work nicely. but I do still need to warm it up. So I'm gonna use some of that, what did I use? That silly putty color. Let's put that down.
What color is that now?
This is that dirty silly putty color. This color up here. What is it? 204 dirty pink. That'd be a nice one too to use. I'm gonna pull out my dirty pink today. I always use that color. It's very similar though. You can't even tell the difference. But it's so light. Gotta calm it down. I'm gonna throw a little color on top with a soft pastel. Then I'm gonna smush it around with my harder pastels. Just kind of blend it. See what it does. See what happens. Maybe a little orange, maybe a little red, whatever you feel you need to get it to that warm, muted underlayer.
Is that gray?
I used some 244. I used my khaki color, and then I'm using orange on top. So ideally it does make a mud color. Now you could use gray. There's nothing wrong with that, but I want you to make sure that you add color to your gray, because gray is very bland and boring. Wah, wah. Gray is a cousin of a color. Is that squeak toy again? It sounds like a bird. I don't know. Does anyone have a bird? All right. Okay. Now I gotta get in my strong, loud stem. Too light. Gotta darken it. I can darken and simultaneously do my texture too. And honestly, I don't really see where it sockets into the cap. I mean, I kind of do, but I kind of don't, which means I don't have to be that definitive in my drawing either. You know, we don't have to say every single piece of information. We don't want to. We draw what we don't know. We draw what we see. We don't see something. Okay, that's one less thing to draw, right? There we go. He looks like he's a little dirty underneath there. I'm gonna clean him up a little bit. The light grays. Maybe I'll just use my finger. Too many strokes sometimes. All right. That's gonna be my little guy. I'll put little things on him too. So I think I'm gonna add, it looks like little bits of grasses or something like that, but either way, they're kind of like a cream color. So let's see, let's grab our cream and throw little boots. Doot, doot, doot. That'll make the sound effect.
Oh, little freckles.
Yeah, like little things, but we don't want it to look like, you know, one of those spotted mushrooms. We want it to look like things actually sitting on the mushroom. So we do have to add that little suggestion of maybe a dark under at least some of them. And if it's too much, you just graze over it with some purple and good to go. A little bit of red down below for some reflected light. There's our little baby guy. So I'll stop there. Here we go. Start laying in that background. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. This is gonna affect our mushrooms in hopefully all good ways, but you never know. So let me move these back all over here. And I'm going to start off with the light. Let there be light. So over here, we got some light. I'm going to get that in there. And I have to be really mindful around my mushroom. Here's that light going in next to my mushroom. Do I have my values where they need to be? It's very, very soft. I don't want such a soft pastel right now. Can't handle that. And it looks like my value's pretty correct. This is slightly darker than my light here. This is almost similar, but still slightly darker than here. And
Is that light a blue?
I started with a blue, but it was too soft for me, so I'm switching to a white. But yes, it is blue. Do I see blue? Not really, but I feel like it should be bluish. It's just what I feel. But it is kind of like a cooler realm, and it will make the oranges of our background stand out even more by being next to it. So there is a purpose to my thing. So even down here, I mean, I have my white right now, but I do kind of need a little bit of that blue in there. So I'm just gonna pop in where I see all these light tones, just to kind of help shape and adjust my values and everything else it needs. This is just my really bright stuff. You don't have to make it like what's in the picture. The picture's a little bit more stretched out than what our paper shape is. Okay, that's all my extreme lights. But I'm just gonna go in and add a little bit more filling in with my white pastel. So I use light blue. You could use a little white. If you don't have that, use whatever light you have. You could do cream. That would be a nice one too. But notice I'm not doing those circles. Like I said, you can do them. I've seen beautiful works create. Like I've seen artists do these beautiful like circled soft vocal finish backgrounds, but it's like, well, you might as well just have looked at the picture though. I mean, it's, you know, it's beautiful and it looks really cool, but I also just don't have the patience for that. Okay. Sorry, I'm chewing. What's that? All these out. Orange, red, green, and khaki. Those are the colors that I have.
The colors again?
I have orange, I have red, olive, and khaki.
Okay, a deep red, okay. Oh, here's the
Kind
side.
of like it's like, you know, your typical kindergarten red.
I like kindergarten red. Everybody knows it.
Like the good old red that, you know, you learn that this is red.
Uh-huh.
Because you don't really learn alizarin crimson as red. You learn cadmium red as red.
And you have that dirty yellow. Here we go.
Yeah, dirty yellow, khaki, whatever you want to call it. So you're going to start to place those in. Now, honestly, I feel like I see like even a little bit of this rusty dark color red too. So I'm going to start off with the loud stuff. Let it be loud,
Okay.
let it be crazy. Put it a little wherever you see it. If you get scared, it's okay because we can always calm it down. I'm scared. I feel like, oh my gosh, these poor mushrooms, they're going to be engulfed with the sea of craziness, but it's all going to come together. I just have to be mindful about my values going around everything. Maybe I'll switch to some yellow and some orange. Now I'm making my yellow or my orange and reds very much more saturated than what's in the picture because I know I'm going to calm it down. I have my olive that's going to calm it down. I have the ability to put in my khaki color, which is like a yellow brown. So we'll add some browns to calm things down. But right now, my goal is just to kind of fill in areas, get everything, you know, not outlined looking anymore, just get it to be something. All the way around here. And I'm using my new pastel for things that are around the edges of my mushrooms. Now, for my oil painters, you're going to want to use, I like to use a flat brush because I don't like to just draw a line with a round brush around it. So I like to use a flat brush just so I end up with at least a thicker area and it doesn't read so much as an outline then. Whatever you got to do to make it not read as a blatant outline. This looks so fragmented so far. The background's a big area. Now my oil painters are gonna have an easier time doing the background. I'll tell you that right now. Because you just plop it down and you smush it around and then you're done. Whereas pastelists, we gotta like put so much pastel down and then you gotta blend it with your finger and you gotta put more down and then you gotta calm it down. A lot of elements going on. It's all good. We don't have to wait for it to dry at least. So there's that. There's that proof. I am due to start a very big cow painting though. I keep telling myself I'm going to do it, but I haven't done it yet. Now, if you end up eating into your mushroom a little bit, whether paint or pastel, just go back in with your dark mushroom color and just broaden it back out again. Oh, he wants to touch. She wants, look, she's touching both of them now. That's so cute. Look, they're a family, they're holding hands. Okay. Let's get excited there. Let's go in with some of my, oh, I forgot down here. I'm gonna go in with my olive next. And then I'm gonna go in with some of my khaki. So this right here is not enough for me to put any sort of smudging on yet. Like I can't even use my finger because look, it's not gonna do anything. It's not gonna do one thing. So I got to add a lot more. Now when I'm going in with all my other colors, I'm trying to break them up so it's not big zones. Like I'm every color I go into next, I'm kind of thinking about, all right, well, there's a little twinkle of color there, there's a little twinkle of color there, and I'm slowly breaking it up into smaller sections. I just don't want it to look like it's evenly spaced out sections. What does that mean, Andrea? That means you don't want it to look like you know how like a dice has like the 5 dots on it on one side, how they're all evenly spaced out. You don't want it to look like that because then it just starts to look like a polka dotted piece of fabric and you don't want that. So you kind of need to kind of have that spontaneity of placement, which I mean, I'm trying to describe. You want to put it randomly, but just not so randomly to where it just forms a pattern. So I have no suggestions on how to do that. I would just keep looking at it and trying to, you know, be mindful of looking at it from a distance is one tactic, which I know many of us forget to do, or just take a picture of it now and then. Worst comes to worst, you just smear it around and mush it around a little more and hopefully it will soften up and not be so pattern-like. See, try to use the corner or a round brush at this point if you're trying to get in little nooks and crannies because it's tricky getting in all these little areas.
Okay, Andrea, I have to take off, so I'll see you next week. Thank you.
All right, I'll see you then. I went into my books. And see, one thing I'm noticing from when I looked up at the screen, which means I'm looking at it shrunken down, is I see in my world that I need to go darker with some of these areas too. So I know that up here has to be way darker, this whole section up here. And that's going to showcase this guy more. So the green only will get so dark. That's not going to get as dark as I need. So I do need to go in with something like maybe a dark brown or a darker green or both or mulberry, whatever it is. I just definitely have to go a little darker. I think I'm going to go in with my mulberry color. I'm not even worrying about smudging it yet. Smudging, it's going to make everything look better. That's like saving the best for last. Put a little bit of this around here. Very light touch. Since I'm using a soft pastel, I don't need a lot of it. This is a good time to use that value picture that I sent you, that black and white picture, to your advantage, so you can see if you're getting your values correct with the background. So it's a good way to kind of gauge, are your mushroom tones where they need to be. Let's go with some green. Over here, I'm using my olive to kind of get stuff down. I'm going to use my,
What is that dark color you have?
I use my like deeper purple, and now I'm using my olive, my new pastel olive,
Okay.
just to kind of help it calm some of this stuff down a little. Let's see, I still don't think I have enough pastel to blend with my finger, but we're going to find out. So
So we're gonna mush now? We're gonna mush.
we're going to mush. Yep, exactly.
I love mushing.
So much fun, right?
I know, it is, yeah.
Who doesn't love a good mush? Little circles.
Mushy circles all over the place. Okay, let's see her now. It doesn't matter, I got dirty fingers. Let's see her now.
That's okay, because our background's dirty anyway. Be careful around the
I like it.
We could always go back in and add more, you know, like this isn't the say all end all last step. It's just to get us to that soft, smushy world that we need to be. I definitely feel like I need more. It's like some of this stuff is not blending as well as I want, which is when you would probably start to pull out some of your softer pastels. That's why my oil
My
painter.
left hand is a softer blender. My right hand, if I did the right, I'd be a firmer thing. This is a lighter touch, the left hand.
Have you ever tried using a paintbrush? Because if you use a paintbrush, that will kind of smush it too. See?
Okay,
You could do that. I just don't like to because it ends up picking up a lot of the pastel instead of embedding it into the paper. But it's an
Okay.
option.
let's try the brush then, okay. Oh, the brush is nice too. It's kind of nice. Oh, it makes a lot of dust.
It does make dust, yes.
My daughter told me I better be outside in the porch doing this, not in the house. What I'm doing in the house.
I won't tell her. I won't tell her. That's why Bruce wears a mask. He's smart. I'm over here in an enclosed environment. But it's all right. It's fine. Everything's fine. Just don't breathe. It's fine.
Don't breathe.
I mean, honestly, I don't really make that much powder, I find. Because I'm utilizing all my powder right now. Like I'm not blowing it away. So that's a good thing. But yeah, you know, particles get up in the air. Things happen. Over here is not blending as well as over here. So that means I have to add a lot more to my paper. I'm going to finish doing what I started and then I'll go back in and add some more. Now, the reason we're doing our background before we do our grass is so our grass will have the ability of having little bits of background through it. So bring your background down a little bit extra more
Right.
than, you know, you would think.
Mine has a little bit of a cyclone effect looking going on.
A cyclone, ooh.
Oh, yeah. A little too twisty or something. We'll fix that.
You can use a softer pastel to get those more powder to be able to blend easier too. That's what kind of what I'm gonna try to do right now. A little more softness in. Help me out. Here, a little bit there. Big area. Sometimes an area that is just so big and so like abstract in a way, because I mean, we're just making these blobby shapes. That's all we're doing. It could be tricky. Sometimes it's nice to kind of just stay in one area and build that up so much, so that way you don't have to go back to it. But I tend to do that after I have like a preliminary layer down. And when we do smudge or blend with paint, whichever, just make sure you're not creating like this aura around your,
Halos, yeah.
yeah. So if you need to, you can go back in, you know, adjust that. You'll see it more looking at it from a distance though. Yeah, putting in those little bits of more softer pastels really help blendability. My arm is killing me from blending. Oh my gosh, I have to like take a break. Look at those values again. As long as the values work in your world, it doesn't have to match exactly what's in the picture. However, you just have to make sure that the areas that you want to stand out and they don't get lost. Sometimes we remember, but sometimes we think, oh, because it's red next to purple, it stands out enough, but it might not stand out enough. It might need like those, the subtle change of values to make it pop a little bit more. Sometimes the color can only take you so far. So look, I got an aura happening, which is kind of like, you know, interesting when if you're doing mushrooms, has a glowing aura, but you know, I don't want that. So I'm gonna make sure that I radiate that light outward. Even if you have to go a little on top of your subject, you could always put your subject more crisply back in. What do you guys think was harder so far, the background or the mushroom?
Mushrooms,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I guess the background's not really hard. It's just a lot.
How about all of the above?
Oh, I bet it's looking great.
Hmm. I might almost take you up on that bet.
What bet?
You say it's looking great.
Yeah.
I might take you up on that bet.
I don't know. Come on. You got the birthday vibes over there working for you.
Yeah.
I think like in my background, I keep going back and forth, and I'm like overloading and then I dilute it. And then I get too crazy again. Then I switch it back and forth. Eventually my paper is going to say, all right, Andrea, that's the end. You're done. Even in paint world, you know, your paint will be like, all right, you got too much on me. Get off. I'm done. Plus, it doesn't help that I'm smushing with a dirty finger all the time. I have a little new finger.
Mine is very, very bright. I think I'm gonna send you a picture. Hang on.
Yeah, send me a picture.
I'm trying to. Oh, that's not, okay, let's see. That's bright, isn't it?
That's pretty psychedelic.
Isn't it? Isn't it? That is
You could
bright.
totally keep it, but you could also dull it down with maybe some browns on top, and that should do the trick.
Okay.
But it's fun. You know, fun colors going on. All right, I think I'm gonna maybe one more spot. One more spot. We'll here. There we go. All right, there. Here we go. So I just have to spin up this edge. A little too mushy there for me. All right. So now we just need to put in our grass. So where to begin? We have some chartreuse, we have some olive. I didn't pull out any dark green, but I might pull out one more dark green just to have something that's a little bit darker. Now 298 is a new pastel that's really nice and somewhat dark. It's not as dark as a black, but there's really not that many darks in that green grass. We just want to make sure that you have something that's really loud. So I have a yellow green, spring green, an olive green, and a forest green. These are my greens right there. Okay. And then of course there is some of that nice orangey brown. That's like, I don't know, I guess we'll call them twigs, stems. I don't know, whatever they are. So we can almost draw them in first. And I'm just gonna use my little loud burnt sienna kind of color. Just put those in. Now my oil painters don't do this. He'll do this at the end. I mean, if you really want to do it, I mean, you do you, but it's just gonna end up getting covered. I mean, it might get covered with the pastels too. Sometimes I'll put things in just even knowingly that they're gonna get covered just for the sake of like me knowing that this is gonna happen. It's bookmarking it in my brain, yada, yada, yada. I just have to fix this stem a little bit right here. It's bothering me. Okay, so got my stems in. Let's go in with some of our loud yellow first. Now this is a softer pastel. This is my yellow green, more yellow than green. And I'm going to use the edge of it. It's a round pastel, so it's not really, I don't really have an edge, but I'm just going to kind of go in and break up into my background and kind of create some flings that give the illusion of some sort of like grassy thing. I don't know what they are. I don't know what kind of plant this is. We're just drawing at the moment, creating little nuances of tendrils of life.
But Andrew, don't we run the risk then of losing them when we like
These guys?
Don't we run the risk of losing those once we put another color? Or I mean, could we, which is what I did, put like just smeared the paper with the olive at the bottom first?
You can absolutely do that.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. That's totally fine. That's why alcoholing it would be a cool thing too, like putting in a blank thing of green and then doing some on top. I'm just putting this in so I can break over the boundary and then work my way towards me. So I like to do background to foreground. And since this is all fairly crisp, I'm gonna just kind of put in the areas that need to fling into my background first up here. And then kind of start to use this side of it and bring it on down. So I mean, I could use different variations of colors. I can use my olive, I could use my greens. And I can almost keep some of my paper coming through too. Some of my little spring green.
Now you have a little bit of green mush in the bottom here, don't you, with the green?
I
green-
very lightly put a little bit of olive just so it's something to play on top of. But the first thing I did was that soft yellowy color. And now I'm just using that kind of like Granny Smith apple green, new pastel to kind of create some littler lines. Sometimes I'll take it and I'll kind of roll the pastel up.
Oh, yeah.
I do the same thing with a brush too. Sometimes I'll take a little round brush and roll it out to create little tendrils. Now we are so close to this grass that I don't want to get too skinny and whatnot with it. I just want to create this illusion like we're a little ant and we're looking up at these big mushrooms, and it's all about the mushrooms. We don't need to have too much going on other than the stuff that is just a little here and there. Use this side, just kind of work your arm back and forth like this, do the windshield wiper wrist movement. Just filling that in. Now it's so stark that yes, it's taking away from our mushroom. So now we have to kind of break it up and calm it down. So I'm saving these other two guys for that, the dark green and my olive. I can go back in and add a little more with my branches and things like that. So instead of using so much of the tip, I'm using a little bit more of the overall edge just to kind of calm some of this down. I could use the tip for some areas, maybe closer to the mushroom there.
Is that a darker green? Like a,
Yep, it's 298. It's a dark forest
of course
green.
it is.
Yep. I only know 5 numbers. 298. 298, 244, 345, 204. Those are the only numbers I know.
That's enough.
That's it. Me and numbers don't get along, so I'm surprised they stuck around. Now you could even use your finger a little bit to kind of smush a little bit, and then we could do some more on top. I'm doing the 2-finger smear. The 2-finger smear. You know, it's a nice little easy task for grasses. If you don't like your grass, you could cut your paper. We're gonna make it work. Think about, there's things that are laying down too. Grasses don't have to be all straight up in the air. Someone walked on it, someone, landed on it and it broke. There's things that are, the camera makes it a little more out of focus too. So it forces us to be a little more free with it. And it all doesn't have to be green, throw in some other colors. We have brown in there. Maybe there's some of that red carried down, Maybe there's some of that purple. Why not? Purple makes everything better with green. It naturally illusions more of a neutral tone, because purple and green, they just kind of will balance each other into a really nice neutral color. I mean, there's not one time that I don't think I've ever not added purple to my green. Like just pops of lavender within a sea of light green lawn. It's always a nice option. Just remember, keep looking at it from a distance. see it as a whole picture, right?
Looks good.
It's getting there. And I'm looking at it from afar for a reason, because I just feel like it just sometimes needs, sometimes I go overboard. Grasses for me are so hard. You would think it's just the earth's fur, and I could like do it because I do so much fur, but no, it's hard. So I just like, I go overboard with it and then I calm it down. And then I go overboard, then I calm it down. So I just have to eventually get to a point where I'm like, all right,
We're
stop.
done.
Stop now, Andrea, stop. So but once you kind of get to that point where you're like, all right, I'm feeling like this is believable, yada, yada, yada. Go back in and tighten up some of your edges on some of your subject matters. Like you might find that some of your edges got a little mushy, which is okay if you're looking for that, but maybe you're not. And maybe you want, something to be a little bit more crisp. Or maybe you want that soft edge, it's just a matter of determining what it is you want your viewer's eye to go to. Your viewer's eye is going to go to any crisper edge. It's going to go to a high contrast element. So wherever you have your high contrast, which for me is really right here, this is my high contrast zone. And for me, this is the part that I like. Because remember, this is the mommy mushroom and she's kissing the baby mushroom. And that's what I like. So maybe in your world, yours is different. And you have yours being a little bit, of a different focal point than mine. And that's all right. Whatever it is, as long as you're cool with it, that's all that matters.
I'm gonna sign off, Andrea.
All
I've got-
right.
I've got too much paint on the board, so
Okay,
it's,
let it dry. Let it dry.
let it dry. So, everybody have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Thank
Amen.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
At this point, I'm just adding a few little tiny little marks, little things that might have gotten eaten up, or maybe I forgot, or maybe I just feel like something is needed somewhere. Not there though. Yeah. And then after we are good. Yeah. All right, so I think that is where I'll probably end that there. Let's pause.